So yeah, I wanted to share a project I've been working on a while ago and go through some of the processes, some of the techniques that I use to put together this model, this rendering. I'll be going through some of the modeling techniques, and then I'll be going through some of the texturing techniques, and then I'll be going through how to set up and light a prop like this in Unreal, and specifically we'll be using Unreal 5 for this one. The techniques are pretty universal, so it doesn't matter what software you have, but for specifically this project will be on Unreal 5. So we'll be looking at the lighting setup, some post processes, camera rendering, stuff like that. And the project, I'll be putting a link down below there to a free file, so you can download the whole project and just look through it and see how it's all put together. And maybe you'll learn something. Hopefully, you'll learn something, and we'll see where we go from there. And yeah, I'll probably split the file the presentation in three parts, with the modeling, rendering, texturing parts separate. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We're in 3ds Max. It's an older version, but still checks out. It doesn't really matter what program you use. You can use Blender, you can use Maya, Max, Silo, ZBrush, whatever you want. It really doesn't make any difference. The tool is just a tool. What you use it is the critical part, and the techniques are pretty universal anyway. So there's no secret technique. There's no special sauce. It's just simple things that add up later to a more detailed model. So you start by adding a box, and yeah, it's simple as that. Whatever program you're using, there's a button that says box, and, and just click on that, and you'll get a box. And yeah, that's the universal way to start anything. You start with a box. So after that, you can duplicate the box. So now you have two boxes, and basically every program you have, you can scale the boxes. So you can just start scaling the boxes and getting some basic shapes together. And it doesn't really matter at this point. You are doing something that will just block out the shape, that you can see what you are doing. So don't worry about it. And yeah, you have a basic model already going on, and then you just add details. That's all it is. And at some point you'll see it. Oh, okay, this detail is wrong. This doesn't look very good, and then you'll go and fix it. But just rotating boxes, moving boxes, copying boxes, and you will get a better result already. And then you might say, okay, we need something else. It's just not just boxes. Well, yeah, you have cylinders, so you can add a cylinder too, and we can change it to 8-sided cylinder. Remove this useless junk, and same thing. Move the cylinder, rotate it, arrange it. So we can pretend that it's the in this case it would be the revolver's cylinder, literally cylinder, that we are adding. And yeah, this is basically the technique, and you can start you can start adding more details once you have a block out model, and you can say, okay, this is the shape, this is the direction. Maybe you look at, okay, the handle. Okay, the handle is horrible, so we need to start adding or modifying it. And we could add in this case, this is 3ds Max, so you would add a poly modifier, and we can start moving the vertices here. And you can say, okay, maybe we want the shape to be more curved. So like in a revolver, the handle is more intricate. And then you just go here. You find this probably something like a split line or connect or something. You can add that extra line over there, and then now we have a more complicated shape. And you just repeat this same. You just hit connect, and boom, you are already improving on the model. So now it starts to look more like a revolver, older revolver. And obviously, in this case, there's an actual model and an actual reference that we can use to see that, okay, where do we need to go from here, and you can just go back and forth with the reference and the model that you have, and that really is all there is to it. You look at the reference, then you look at the model, and you say, okay, it's not there yet. Okay, so this one needs to change, and this one is too something, and this one is definitely not working, and this one is too thick and too big and stuff like that. But basically, in just a matter of, well, it would go faster if I didn't explain it, but in just a matter of minutes or even a couple of seconds, you have a model that you can say, okay, this is the direction, this is the overall shape. We could say that, okay, let's see how big this model is. So if we draw a plane here, and we can look at the creation parameter. Okay, so it's 2 meters. So we will need to scale this down to about 10% to get something more accurate on the line. But yeah, this would be the place to do it. You would scale it down to its proper size, so you make sure that if it needs to be a realistic scale, you scale it down, and then you just start adding and modifying, like the handle here. Just added lines, extrusions, simple techniques, and yeah, eventually eventually the model that you have will look identical to the reference you have, and then the model is finished, and that's that. Very simple. So one thing regarding speed, on how to model faster or how to get the project done faster, is that you do not model faster by moving the mouse faster. And that's very important to understand, is that how fast you build the model is pretty much just you sitting there and observing, and you don't really do any work at that point. You just observe the reference. You look at the model you have and then see, okay, this isn't matching, this is wrong, and then you fix the issue. But you don't need to model fast. There is no modeling fast. If you're modeling fast, then you're probably doing something wrong. There's no need to model fast. Most of the time you're modeling something like this, it should be spent on just putting the model there, putting a reference over here, and just sitting in silence and looking at it. And that way you can see, okay, this needs to be fixed or that needs to be fixed, and then you can hone in on that. But just doing random stuff or trying to do something fast, it's just it's nonsense. Work smart, and yeah, most of the, or 90% of the work is just you actually not doing any of the work and just looking at it, observing it, seeing, okay, this needs to change or that needs to change, and then just doing the change. But yeah, don't model fast, just observe more, sit there more and look at it more, and that's the key. So whichever program you have, is you're going to have some type of mesh smoothing operation. This could be in 3ds Max, this is called Turbo Smooth. It's basically just subdivision surfaces, and you can see when we do this, the model kind of like it, it becomes mush. And well, we can still kind of like see that there's a little bit of the shape there, but if we keep adding more, then we're going to get a very smooth result, which is good. There are no more jagged edges, but now the shape just doesn't look anything like what we want. And the way we get the shape back is that there are two basic techniques for this, and I'll share the other. The other one is very well. First, I'll share the other, and then we'll take a look at the other one. So the way we get back the sharpness is that we add edges. So you have some kind of let's find here with a cut tool or something similar, and we can look at this model. Actually, we can by adding a cut here, another line, and we can actually go all the way around this. We'll see if that actually connected, and we can go all the way around this base like this. And when we turn on the smoothing, we can see that, okay, now it's semi soft, and so this is kind of like what we are looking for, or it's closer already, and we want it to be a semi-soft surface, and so that's the way you do it, and you can see the difference in without the subdivision surface. It looks like this, and with it looks like this. The second way you do this is that you can use edge creasing, but this one will work universally, so it depends what you want to do. This one is a more of an old school method. The edge creases, it produces nicer effects to a certain degree. This one produces more universal workability. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can see from here, let's say we would add another cut here, and just add a cut here, and then we can select them, and by just moving them here, we can kind of start getting a different shape for the revolver handle in this case. So in the revolver, you might have more of a taper here, so you push it in, and yeah, and you could do it on the other side as well, and yeah, and that was it's just a simple cut, and yeah, like I said, now you have a more accurate curve that you would want, that you could now go look at the reference and say, okay, is this accurate? And you say, okay, now it's too much here, or it's too little here, or is it, how is it working here? And that's all there is to it. And now then you can see that, okay, in this case maybe there's some problem with this kind of topology, where we can see the this is the actual topology. So you might look at it and say, okay, this isn't very good. So we can clean up the topology. Like you can see here, like there's like already like artifacts going on here, and we can just add more cuts here, and by doing this, the topology is going to be more even, more accurate. And by connecting these two, the topology once again improves. And you can kind of like see it without anything else. You can already see that it's better by simply saying that it's easier to understand. Every box has a proper side to it, and everything looks neater. So if we turn back the topology, now it's a lot more even spread. It looks nicer when we can compare it without and with the fixes. And really the fixes were just we connected the edges so that everything is connected and stuff like that. So yeah, and you just keep doing that, and that's the way you make it to the final model. And that's really the only two techniques is that you add boxes, and then you add your turbo smooth or your smoothing operation, or what's that? I keep forgetting the name. Subdivision surface. So you add that, and then you see that okay, it looks horrible, and then you'll go and fix it. And yeah, well, here this might be a good example to show. So in here we can see that it looks good. But then there's something going on here. So that would be okay. That's a problem. So what's that? We can go and investigate, and we look at okay. It shouldn't be like everything looks great. So what's the problem? And this one will require a little bit of investigation. So we'll start by looking at that. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. So if we select all the 6 vertices, and we can actually see here we have now 7 vertices selected. So that's a problem. We should have 6. So there's a loose vertex somewhere. And if we just select, look here, we look here, we look here, we look here, we look here, and we look here. And now we found 2 vertices selected. Everything else was just 1 vertex selected, 1 vertex. But here there's actually 2 vertices. They are kind of like hidden there. So this happens quite often, and this is what produces this effect here. And it's quite like it can be a bit hard to catch sometimes where it goes, but just do investigation and you'll find the problem. And the problem obviously will just go away. Here we can go and collapse these vertices together, and you're not even going to see the difference here. But when we look at this, the problem is now gone. So when we collapse it, everything looks good. So now we have a nice topology going on here. When we can see that there's also some kind of problem here, and it's probably the same problem. If we select this, there are 2 vertices. So the more you do it, the faster you can identify the problem. And so there are 2 vertices. Once again, we'll go and collapse, and the problem is fixed, and everything looks nice and smooth now. So yeah, that's about it for that technique. And those are really the only 2 techniques there is. We can look at the third one, which is just mostly the same as this one, which is, let's say, or this is the way I work a lot of time is so I extend these edges. So if I'll keep shift here, and this will depend obviously on your software, but there should be some kind of tool where you can extend the edge. So take this edge and we can then extrude or extend it out. to add another polygon. And when you turn this on back, we can see what's going on. So the great thing about this one is we can just keep extending to get a nice shape. And yeah, and that will give you a more complex shape. So like there was the hammer shape in the gun. So you could add some more complicated shapes and whatever. And yeah, that's one way to add. Besides cutting these edges and stuff, you can add more geometry that way. And there's no difference. It's just whatever you feel is the appropriate tool for that specific purpose. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah, here we can just look at some of the details on the model, and like I said, it's all very simple stuff. You think it's simple, and it becomes simple. The only thing that's more complicated here is that it's just more simple things added together to make it look more complicated. At the end of the day, this is just a cylinder. Now it has additional features, yes, but at the end of the day, it's just a cylinder. Here's another thing. It's just another cylinder with more added things. And here's a box. Here's another cylinder. Well, that's a box. That's another box. And yeah, all these screws and on these kind of small things, they are just boxes with smoothing on, or cylinders with smoothing on. And yeah, there really isn't anything special about any of them. The barrel is just a cylinder again. Yeah, there really isn't. It's just all boxes and cylinders at the end of the day. And yeah, that's the way you want to think about it, because the moment you start thinking that it's some kind of difficult shape or anything like that, then you are going to the wrong direction. There's definitely more organic modeling at some ports. So these would be things that are that might take a little bit more time to get them right. But at the end of the day, it's still the same stuff. It's just boxes and modelings, and boxes, cylinders, and yeah, that's all there is to it. And one thing you might want to think about is how you're going to add some of these details. Do you want to use textures, normal maps, or model these features in there? And my advice, well, you obviously want to do what you are tasked to do. So if you need to build a model to a spec, you build it to that spec. But my preference is that I do a high resolution model for something like this, and from here you can always just turn it into a low resolution model. You can always bake the textures. You can always do anything you want, but you have a reference point, or even in some cases maybe the resolution is not good enough. Maybe there's an extreme super high close-up and you need to improve the resolution. Like if it's here, then you can hardly see anything. So if it's a third-person shooter, you wouldn't even see that. But if it's an IMAX movie and there's just happens to be a shot here, then yeah, this isn't going to fly. We need to improve it. But at least we are in a good position to start improving it. But if this was just a normal map, yeah, it really depends. But my preference is to just model as much as you can, and then have the textures really just do only a fine detail. So yeah, topology is it's important to a degree. In animation, if it's a human character, it's even more important. In this kind of models where it's just hard surface props, and it would mainly have like a mechanical animation, rotations, stuff like that. It's not that critical. If you want to make it a good topology, yes, but at the end of the day, a good topology is the topology that looks good. So trying to make it into something, having this very strict mindset that it needs to be like this or it needs to have this, that's not very good. If it looks good, then it's good. That's the only topology that you need to worry about. And if you need to add more or take more away, then do that. But just reference it based on, does it look good? Does it look interesting? Is it proper? Does it shade properly? And that's the correct topology for anything. Animation is a little bit more difficult, or it's a little bit more, not difficult, but it's a little bit more complicated because things need to move in an organic manner, and so that would be a different topic altogether. But for a simple prop like this, yeah, the topology only needs to be so that it looks good. Yeah, that's about it. So one thing on the direction of the thing that you're modeling. So in this case, there's actual photo reference. I don't have access to a scanned model, so I could meticulously make sure that everything is 100% accurate. So it's just eyeballing the reference, looking at it, how it looks like, getting some statistics on what the size of the barrel is, or the diameter of the barrel, and the ammunition and stuff like that. You can get it to very close by just eyeballing it. You don't need anything more from just simple images. And another thing would be to have a small separation between the artistic direction and the actual photoreal reference. So if you need to make it into a 100% absolute photorealistic one-to-one match, that is very highly detailed and very close-up shot, then yeah, you do what you need to do. But in this case, most of these, like if you look at the edges, I keep the edges quite soft, and it just adds more interest. It adds more artistic softness to the model, so it's not super hard on here. And it also adds more interesting lighting when you put a light there, so it doesn't have that super crisp edge, but instead it has more bevel to it, and the light will catch it, and then it'll look nicer. But again, if it's a spec that you need to go for, like this needs to be this or needs to be that, then obviously you go for that, and forget the artistic quality of it. But that's something it depends on the project. So yeah, that's about it for the first part, and hope that helped. If you have any questions, just ask down below, and I'll see what I can help you with. Again, the download link will be in the description. Completely free to download. You can look through the settings and scene and see how it's put together. and the next video will be on the texturing side, going through that. And yeah, I'll see you then.